Hello, today we'll continue going over the PMP question bank. Next, let's look at question 21. In question 21, during the daily collaboration meeting, several team members complained that due to a noisy work environment, they were unable to concentrate. So the question here is, who is responsible for solving this problem by creating a more favorable work environment? Let's first look at the options. Option A is the project sponsor, option B is the team members, option C is the product owner, and finally, option D is the project manager. All right, so here, actually, our exam mainly revolves around one person, which is the project manager. The main responsibilities of the project manager, in addition to what we mentioned earlier about being overall responsible for the normal operation of the project and handling issues, also include what this question is about, being responsible for removing obstacles and creating a favorable work environment. This is also a key responsibility of the project manager. This ensures that our team can proceed smoothly, right? That is the smooth progress of the team's work in order to maximize delivery efficiency. So what does this include? Actually, this already includes problem solving, right? It includes removing obstacles. These are all part of the overall responsibilities of a project manager. So for this question, we should choose option D, which is to have the project manager address various issues in our work environment. These problems might be relatively simple, like a noisy environment, or they could be more complex, such as specific major issues within the project. All of these actually fall within the scope of the project manager's responsibilities. So for this question, we choose option D. All right, next, let's take a look at question 22. This question is about a supplier in our project who experienced a delay when delivering a related product solution, which affected the release date. So what measures should our project manager take to help our Agile team deal with this obstacle? Now, here's a problem. What is it? The solution has been delayed. At this point, let's first take a look at the options and see which measure we should take. To put it this way, many of the options could actually be considered correct, but there is definitely one that is the most appropriate. So first, option A is to collaborate with a supplier to explore alternative solutions. Option B is to review and update the release date together with the team. Option C is to ask the technical lead to escalate the issue to the functional manager. Option D is to have team members and experts jointly develop a solution. All right. On the surface, they all seem more or less correct, right? After all, it's about solving the problem. But which approach is actually the most appropriate? Which is the best? So first of all, where is our project manager? We definitely have to take some responsibility for this obstacle. And when it comes to the supplier, what must we do? We absolutely have to collaborate with the supplier. This is essential. Next, when it comes to finding solutions or alternative options, in most cases as project managers, we can work together with our suppliers to identify possible alternative solutions that might help mitigate the impact of the delay. At the same time, we also need to fully understand the scope and impact of the delay. As for the other options, actually, first of all, if we haven't assessed the impact of the delay or obtained accurate information, then option B, which directly suggests updating the release date, isn't really appropriate. It's not ideal. Reporting the issue is necessary, but as project managers, before doing that, we need to first understand the problem itself, the nature of the problem, its causes, and any possible solutions. This is very important. You can't just immediately report the issue or directly postpone the date. That approach is actually not appropriate. Also, regarding option C here, there's actually a minor issue with its description. Specifically, the mention of a functional manager at the end isn't quite correct, because in an agile environment, there really isn't a traditional functional manager. As for the last option, it suggests having team members and experts work together to develop a solution. At first glance, this seems correct, right? After all, it's about finding a solution. However, actually, normally, without communicating with the supplier, we actually can't make unilateral decisions or develop solutions on our own. So this is an option we shouldn't choose. Therefore, for this question, the most appropriate choice is actually option A, which is to collaborate with a supplier to understand the available options and to quickly identify the most suitable solution for us. That's our question 22. All right, next let's look at question 23. Question 23 is about a project manager who is managing an agile project. Currently, we are in the third iteration. During this iteration, the client contacted the project manager to request the addition of some extra features, which are now considered to be quite important. Moreover, these features can be implemented without requiring a significant amount of additional resources. The client is now requesting that these new features be included immediately in the current iteration. How should we respond? All right, so first of all, what has happened here? A situation has arisen. A new issue has come up, which is that right now, during our process, while everything is running smoothly, some features that could be added in this iteration have emerged. Of course, there's no problem with these features, right? They've already been considered very important. So in this situation, how should we make a choice? What should we do? First, let's look at option A. Option A is to remind the client that changes are not allowed according to the contract. All right. Option B is to modify the current iteration and include the additional features. Actually, options A and B are completely opposite, right? One is absolutely not allowed, and the other is to immediately allow it. Such extreme options usually have issues. So both A and B are actually not suitable. Now, option C is to prioritize the additional features and put them on the backlog for the next iteration. As for option D, it is to inform the client that these new features will be added in later stages. All right. As for options C and D, basically, both of them are kind of adopted, but neither is implemented immediately, right? So which one should we choose here? Let's first analyze options C and D. In this situation, as the project manager, the first thing we should do is inform our client that the request has been received. And then, in the next iteration, we can prioritize it. This is the proper approach, right? This allows the team to finish the tasks they are currently working on, so everything can proceed smoothly without any other disruptions. If you were to add it in immediately, right? The next time, when it comes time to add new features, temporarily adding new features like this could actually have a certain impact on the work of our team members, which really isn't ideal. Now, as for option D, the main issue here is actually about what? That is, letting the client know that these new features will be added later is not a problem. However, as for exactly at which stage they'll be added or where they'll be added, no decision has been made at this point. So actually, this is why option C is included. Putting it on the to-do list is actually more reasonable. As for when exactly to do it, for now, let's just set it aside, and later on we'll plan out the specific implementation stage and timeline. This way, things are organized, and we have a plan for execution. Doing it like this won't have too much of an impact on the overall work of our team. So in this case, we should choose our option C. Actually, D is also correct, but if you only tell me that it will be added later, actually, the client doesn't know when it will be added, and neither do we at the moment. So option C is actually a more suitable and reasonable approach. Therefore, for this question, we should choose option C. All right, next, let's look at question 20. Let me see, this is question 20. Question 24. Here, the project manager has already created a stakeholder list and is now deciding how to effectively distribute project information to the client. So, what should the project manager do next? Among the 4 options here, one is to hold face-to-face meetings with stakeholders every week. Option B is to send updates to all stakeholders, including the client. Option C is to conduct stakeholder analysis and develop a communications management plan. The last option is to review historical materials previously sent to other clients and follow those as a guide. So, in this case, what should the project manager do first? Stakeholder analysis. Identify all stakeholders' communication and overall needs, and then develop a final communications management plan. The main benefit of this is that we can ensure the methods of information delivery, including frequency, content, and so on, actually align with the expectations and interests of different stakeholders. As for the other options, first, option A, which is holding weekly meetings with stakeholders. Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. It's also a good approach. But if you have a lot of stakeholders, right, and also they might be quite busy, right? If you have to communicate every week, it might not suit every stakeholder's preference, or maybe they just don't want such frequent communication. So while the intention is good, it's actually not necessarily suitable for everyone. Now, sending updates to all our stakeholders, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Essentially, there's no problem. However, if you send out updates directly without any prior communication, what could happen? It might actually cause some issues. It could lead to misunderstandings, so actually that's not quite right. Now, as for the last option, reviewing historical data well, it can serve as a reference However, when it comes to the actual stakeholders of the current project, every time you deal with stakeholders, they might be different. If you only analyze historical data, you can't really create a customized approach. So this option is also incorrect. Therefore, for question 24, we should choose option C. Next, let's look at question 25. In question 25, a project manager has noticed that a certain team member has become increasingly disengaged in the current project. So, what measures should our project manager take to ensure this team member stays motivated? First, option A is to communicate with the team member to understand the issue and require them to take corrective action. Option B is to assign another team member to act as a mentor for this member. Option C is to hold a team meeting to discuss expectations for team participation. Finally, the last option is to require this member to undergo additional training to improve their communication skills. Alright? All four of these options seem to be addressing the problem, right? They're all about solving the issue. So, which one is the most appropriate? So, here, first of all, our main issue lies with this team member, right? They lack motivation, they don't have much enthusiasm for the work. And actually, it only mentions one member here, just one member. So, understanding and empathizing with the disengaged team member is really important. This is especially crucial for a project manager. So, what about the project manager? First of all, the project manager must ensure communication and conversation with the team member to understand the issues and stay updated on any problems in a timely manner. Then, it's also necessary to promptly take corrective actions to ensure engagement. As for the other options, actually, these options are actually all suggesting that the project manager should take action before understanding the problems faced by the team members. This is actually not very appropriate. That is to say, options B, C, and D all involve taking action, but if you take measures directly without first understanding the problem, it could actually cause some additional issues. So for this question, we should choose option A, which means we first need to understand the problem and then discuss how to communicate. So how do we solve it? All right, that's our choice for this question. We choose option A. Okay, if you need a complete structure, you can leave a comment below and get the most reliable question bank at the best price. That's all for today, everyone. Bye-bye.